Chapter 605, The Demoness Teases Him. Jianghu thought for a moment but could not come up with an answer. Hong Yuye hadn't mentioned any punishment before. Most frequently mentioned was taking something from him, but it seemed not to be this kind of punishment after the offense. Speak. Didn't you say my every word is etched in your heart? Asked Hong Yuye with a smile. Jianghu bowed his head in silence. He didn't know how to answer and could only respond with silence. At that moment Hong Yuye suddenly said, "Come here." Jianghu reluctantly stepped forward. His back was already soaked with cold sweat. He wasn't very afraid of the punishment itself. What he feared was the unknown. He was unable to predict what Hong Yuye would do. That's what made it terrifying. When he walked in front of Hong Yuye, Jianghu saw her raise her index finger. It pointed directly at his forehead. At that moment he felt as though he already knew his fate. He mentally prepared himself. This was better than him having to lie. A cool sensation appeared on his forehead. Jianghu even prepared himself to be sent flying backward. He clenched his teeth and tightened his lower back. His cultivation realm had no effect here under Hong Yuye, so he didn't need to activate his cultivation realm. At that moment his body tilted backward. "What are you doing?" Hong Yuye asked. Her finger had already retracted. Jianghu looked forward and saw the woman in front of him. She looked amused as if she was watching some sort of joke. Jianghu was speechless. He hadn't been flung backward yet. "Is the gathering over?" Hong Yuye retracted her hand. "Yes, it's already over." Jianghu nodded. "Tell me what happened," Hong Yuye said. Jianghu began from the very beginning. Hong Yuye wasn't interested in Senior Dan Yuan's mission at all. It was the later part about burning immortal that caught her attention. "Do you know about burning immortal, Senior?" Jianghu asked. "Do you want him dead?" Hong Yuye asked back. "Xing is quite helpful for us," Jianghu said. He was a member of the Bright Moon sect and most of the information from the eastern region came from him. Without him, the information of the Clear Sky School and the Bright Moon sect would be completely cut off. Naturally, he couldn't be allowed to die. Then make sure he doesn't get too close to burning immortal. It is important to make sure burning immortal formation doesn't accumulate too much power, said Hong Yuye and paused. If he tries many times it might be too late. Jianghu was surprised. Too late? Hong Yuye didn't say anything further. It seemed that the more he came into contact with the burning immortal formation, the more power would be injected into the formation. Over time it could be activated. By then it would be irreversible. Jianghu could only hope that Xing wasn't a reckless person. Hong Yuye wasn't interested in what happened afterward. However, she did ask about the human emperor. "The Xianyuan sword," Hong Yuye said calmly. "But the Xianyuan sword is not in the eastern region." "Then where is it?" Jianghu asked. "Do you want it?" she asked instead. "I don't." Jianghu shook his head. "Such a sword naturally has its owner. I don't need it and can't afford to wield it." "Why not?" "You're young. You're at the early stage of Golden Core Realm at the age of 33. You're already quite remarkable," Hong Yuye said. Jianghu lowered his head and thought for a moment. "If you wish to wear the crown you must bear its weight." "I'm not aiming for that." "If you wish to wear the crown you must bear its weight?" Hong Yuye said. After that she didn't say much. According to a legend, the southern part is the homeland of the human emperor. He fell in his homeland, and the sword he carried with him fell into oblivion along with him. The southern part? For a moment, Jianghu understood the helplessness of Gue. Why did it always have to be the southern region? Was it really a land of talented individuals, or a land of trials and tribulations? After he finished telling her the matters of the gathering, Jianghu began to discuss the issue of the ship. "I've noticed that many people have similar objectives, and conflicts will be there whether they are apparent or hidden. Someone is using me and intends to use me to kill. There will likely be more trouble later. If it disturbs your peace, Senior, I hope you can understand. I might use the character of Smiling Sansheng and might end up saying things that might offend you. However, this identity is very beneficial for us. I can use it to learn more information." Smiling Sansheng? Hong Yuye looked at Jianghu. Jianghu nodded. He would not provoke any of these people if it were up to him. He would quietly wait to land at Chaos Stone Island. On the other side of the ship, 7 or 8 people sat at a table with a middle-aged man as their leader. He looked middle-aged but had white hair. "I have already driven Heavenly King Kuer's people out of the ship. This time, smiling Sanxing has helped us a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to do. Bai Ying smiled. He was looking for an opportunity to deal with Hua Zhang and the others. On the deck, he deliberately asked about smiling Sanxing's female companion and incited Hua Zhang to ask further. Then he started a conflict and smiling Sanxing took action. He had expelled Hua Zhang and the others from the ship entirely. We still need to dock twice more and they may board the ship again, said a woman. No problem. It's not easy for them to board from the back. Besides, with smiling Sanxing here we can use the same trick again, said Bai Ying. That person is reckless. It just so happens that he's useful for us. While he's avenging himself, he clears obstacles for us. It's like killing two birds with one stone. He probably knows he should thank us. Otherwise, with his cultivation, it's impossible for him to sweep everyone on this ship. What if he finds out? Someone suddenly asked. Find out. Bai Ying shook his head. With his strength he probably won't. Even if he does, there is no problem. Would he want to be our enemy? In the early stage of the return to Void Realm, he's not a threat to us. By then he can only take a loss and continue to be our tool. Why bother fighting us to the death? Then what about the person behind this ship? The woman asked. What does it have to do with us? Bai Ying narrowed his eyes. The one who acted was smiling Sanxing of the end of all things. What does it have to do with our great thousand god sect? Everyone nodded. In this way, smiling Sanxing was indeed a lucky star for them. There's a problem. How do we provoke a conflict between smiling Sanxing and the others? A young man asked. Smiling Sanxing seems to be interested in those two ordinary people. Perhaps we can use that to provoke him, said the woman. That might work but not for long. The key is his partner. That woman seems important to him. The effect of ordinary people is limited. The key lies in his female companion. This woman seems exceptionally important to him. Just spread some rumors saying that she is carrying a valuable treasure or that she herself is an extraordinary cultivation vessel. That will tempt people to investigate, said Bai Ying. He smiled as if everything was within his control. Others agreed as well. This way there would be fewer people competing with them. Their mission could be accomplished more smoothly in this way. Chapter 606. Take a deep breath, it'll be over in an instant. In the eastern region there was a realm where stars flowed in reverse. Beneath the dazzling sky of the starry river drifted a vast continent. At the top of the continent, a figure sat cross-legged and resonated with the stars. And below the figure was a vast continent with a barrier in the middle separating them. The people below could only look up at the figure in the sky. The land was filled with countless mountains, rivers, and streams. In one secluded place, a group of people had gathered. They seemed to be attempting to break through the defenses of the mountain. On the other side in the forest, a man in white clothes looked at the stone tablet in silence. He exuded a majestic aura as vast as the mountains and rivers. At that moment, the stone tablet glowed brightly. Two large characters flashed, burning immortal. The light was about to cover the entire stone tablet. But no one knew what would happen when the light covered the entire stone tablet. At that moment, a young man arrived. Senior brother Subai, it's broken. The formation is broken. It's really the yin-yang formation. He said excitedly. I've never seen a yin-yang formation like this. It's amazing. I should have learned properly from my master. I didn't even know about things like this. It's broken? Subai smiled. Yes, it's broken. Now, the other seniors are exploring that place. They asked me to ask you if you want to go in, the young man said. Immediately he arrived in front of the stone tablet. Senior brother, are you going to break the burning immortal formation? I feel like the stone tablet is lighting up. Does that mean there has been some progress? It should be. Subai nodded. Shall we go in again to understand the changes? The young junior asked. Subai looked at the forest and remained silent. The young junior took a step forward. He intended to try it anyway. After all, he had gone in several times before. But just as he was about to enter the formation, Subai grabbed his shoulder to stop him. He smiled gently. Junior brother, you're too impulsive. Let's wait a bit. Wait. The young junior was puzzled. Wait for what? Subai smiled without saying a word. In the open sea, a massive ship navigated through endless sea fog and headed toward an unknown direction. Such a thick fog. Jianghu couldn't help but exclaim. He realized that this fog had the ability to affect his perception. It was similar to the fog in Sea Fog Cave. Perhaps both were connected. It was mind-boggling to think about. The heavenly note was far from overseas, so how could it be connected to the depths of the sea? At that moment someone walked past him. It seemed this person was going to make a move. It has happened many times already. Jianghu stood with his hands behind his back. He felt a bit helpless. A tree longs for calm, but the wind never ceases to make turbulence. It had been 3 days since the last time he made a move. In these 3 days he didn't know what rumors had been circulating in secret, but many people glanced at him. The glances and stares intensified, especially when he came out on the deck with Hong Yuya. They looked like hungry predators who had found their prey. Unfortunately, even after waiting for a few days, the others didn't make a move. Someone will eventually lose patience, and the person secretly pushing for this won't let the situation continue like this. Jianghu walked to Ran Hui. Let's see if anyone would come looking for trouble. When he came over, he noticed something behind Ran Hui and his wife. There were green and white energies on it. It looked quite extraordinary. But it was sealed by a force. How did this thing end up here? Jianghu was lost in thought when someone roared from inside. Which thief stole my azure essence cauldron? A middle-aged man rushed out. His face turned red with anger. Jianghu looked at the cauldron and understood what was happening. He didn't say anything but stood quietly to watch how things would develop. My azure essence cauldron is not something that anyone can steal so easily. Who dares take it without my permission? Said the middle-aged man furiously. He was ready to strike. A spell surged and the cauldron broke through the seal. Boom. The azure essence cauldron rushed out from behind Ran Hui. This astonished the ordinary couple huddling in the corner. They were frightened. You two ordinary people dare to steal from me? The middle-aged man roared angrily. He was ready to kill the two ordinary people. However, a voice suddenly said from the crowd, these two are just ordinary people. They clearly lack the ability to steal anything. The voice was elusive. No one could be sure who had spoken. But the middle-aged man realized that these two ordinary people indeed lacked the ability to steal from a cultivator, let alone break the seal on his treasure. Then who stole it? At that moment, another voice from the crowd said, who has been with them all this time? Just ask them. The implication was clear to everyone. The middle-aged man turned to look at Jianghu standing nearby. Smiling Sansheng, why did you steal my treasure? The middle-aged man asked. Shouldn't you first ask if it was really me who stole it? Asked Jianghu. Did you steal it? Yes, I stole it. Why did you steal my treasure? Don't you want to ask me how I stole it? How did you steal it? I stole it easily as you were too weak to prevent it from happening, Jianghu said with a gentle smile. You, the middle-aged man was infuriated. How dare you insult me? He triggered the blue and white energies and began to attack. The man was only at the early stage of the return to Void Realm. Jianghu raised his hand slightly, and the moon-slaying slash soared out of his wrist. Boom. The two engaged in a battle. Their figures were a blur, and their powers manifested in the surroundings. However, after some time Jianghu stepped back. The middle-aged man had already been thrown out of the ship and had fallen into the deep sea. He vanished without a trace. This time, Jianghu didn't look toward the direction of the deep sea. Instead, he turned his gaze toward the deck. He smiled. I found you. From the very beginning, he knew that someone was orchestrating everything from the shadows and using him as a tool. How could he allow himself to be someone else's tool willingly? For smiling Sansheng, that would be a thing of great shame. Naturally, he had to find them and eradicate them. He would let their blood stain the deck. At the edge of the deck at this moment, a woman and a young man exchanged a smile. Everything went smoothly. Smiling Sansheng is truly someone impulsive without brains. Indeed. I can't believe how careful I was, and yet we managed to easily trap him and make him our tool. He is too young and self-righteous. He thinks he's fearless just because he has some strength and is completely unaware that true powerhouses are using him from the shadows, said the woman disdainfully. He's being used without knowing. He gets pleasure from acting like this and thinks he's invincible. Who's finding pleasure and thinks they're invincible? Said a gentle voice from behind the woman. A white paper fan appeared near her neck. The woman's pupils contracted in fear. The fan transformed into a dagger. It pierced through her neck. A soft laughter rang in her ears like a gentle breeze. Take a deep breath. It'll be over in an instant. Chapter 607. Kneel, beg, and admit you deserve to die. A gentle smile, a soft voice, and the warm blood blocked the young man's vision. Even though he was over 100 years old and had a remarkable cultivation realm, he was still shocked by the scene before him. Originally, he had come to discuss using such a dangerous person as a tool. They thought everything was under control. But at this very moment, smiling Sansheng appeared before them. He arrived behind the senior with lightning speed and pierced her neck. The warm blood splattered on his face, and what he saw was the smile on smiling Sansheng's face. In contrast, his senior's face showed only disbelief and fear. This eerie scene left him terrified. Fear spreads through every corner of his body with each heartbeat. He acted immediately. He gathered all his strength, struck the person before him, and sent him flying. Then he called for help. Jianghu dragged the woman's head and retreated to the center of the deck. At that moment, the people saw the deck stained with blood. In the cabin, Bai Ying laughed heartily. Handled another one. There are still some people with flaws. As long as we address them accordingly, we can use smiling Sansheng to deal with them together. By then he would start to notice, but it would be too late. All we can do is silently accept the losses. A woman next to him nodded. Senior, your strategic planning is admirable. Bai Ying was about to respond when he froze in place. His face changed. He received a distress message, and the woman next to him had a similar reaction. What's going on? Bai Ying was puzzled. He rushed outside. Soon their people appeared on the deck. At that moment, smiling Sansheng stood in the center of the deck. He was dragging a woman's head along the deck as she struggled. Bai Ying's eyes widened in anger. He erupted with immense power. He tried to suppress smiling Sansheng. Smiling Sansheng. At that moment, several members of the Great Thousand God sect stood in midair and surrounded Jianghu. Jianghu felt a bit anxious. Bai Ying was in the middle stage of the return to Void Realm. It was beyond Jianghu's capabilities. If it were up to him, he would try to avoid confrontation and prepare to escape. He wouldn't put himself in such a situation at all. However, he was smiling Sansheng at this moment. Although the middle stage of the return to Void Realm was terrifying, it was precisely this kind of situation that he needed to fight his way out and let them feel the pain. Otherwise, how could they understand that borrowing a dangerous blade came with an equally heavy price? If he retreated now, it would mean smiling Sansheng wasn't what he used to be. Smiling Sansheng, release my junior immediately, said the middle-aged man with authority. Jianghu smiled slightly. He realized everyone here was stronger than him. Release her? All right. He moved his hand. There was a slash. The woman stopped struggling and went still. He released her. Smiling Sansheng. The middle-aged man couldn't contain his anger and was about to attack when an elder suddenly appeared in the air. It was the person in charge of the ship. He was the one overseeing the ship's affairs. What are you doing? The old man asked in a deep voice. You should ask smiling Sansheng about that, Bai Ying said coldly. He massacred one of our own. Do we have to endure this silently? Does the end of all things think it's the only ruler of the seas? The old man looked at smiling Sansheng on the deck and frowned. If it's indeed his doing, you can handle it among yourselves. Some people around were watching the scene unfold. There was no harm to them if these people fought each other. Many people were delighted to see others killing each other. At that moment, Mi Lingyue also looked toward the deck. Smiling Sansheng seemed exceptional to her. Smiling Sansheng seems to be at the early stage of the return to Void Realm. He is surrounded by people from the Great Thousand God sect. 3 at the middle stage, 2 at the early stage, and 1 at the late stage of the return to Void Realm. There are also several Soul Ascension Realm cultivators. He can't possibly be their match, a maid said. If it's the end of all things, the Great Thousand God sect would have to hold a trial. However, the evidence is right in front of us. Unless smiling Sansheng appeals and begs the captain for help, he will suffer the humiliation and die here. Even if he does beg, there's no hope of survival. It's better to just stand tall and face death, said another maid. Mi Lingyue remained silent and watched quietly. She felt that her 2 maids didn't remember what she had said to them in the beginning. It was safer not to offend smiling Sansheng. Would she feel nervous and anxious if smiling Sansheng was only good enough to die here? Smiling Sansheng, did you kill her? The middle-aged man asked. He was Yue. He was in the middle stage of the return to Void Realm and was headed to Chaos Stone Island on a mission. He had thought that with his cultivation he could toy and use smiling Sansheng from the shadows. This was unexpected. Why don't you ask me why I killed her? Jianghu looked at the person in the air. No matter the reason, you're standing here just fine while you killed our people. Don't you see the severity of the situation? Yu Wei said in a deep voice. You tell me, did you kill my people? That's all that matters. Answer me, did you kill her? Jianghu smiled and nodded. I killed her. Good. Since you've admitted it, there's nothing more to say. We want to kill you and no one else can say anything. The murderer will be killed. Since you've killed our people, you have to pay the price, Yu Wei said solemnly. Ha. Jianghu smiled again. What price do you want me to pay? Kneel down, beg, and admit that you deserve to die 1,000 deaths, a young man shouted angrily. Jianghu burst into laughter. Then, his figure disappeared from the spot. It astonished everyone. Jianghu was too fast. He seemed to disappear into the light. When you're young, you have lofty aspirations. He slashed. I was once the best in the world. Watching the man fall in terror, Jianghu finally said, Do you think this is enough to make someone like me kneel and beg? Smiling San Sheng. Yu Wei shouted and launched a full-force attack on Jianghu. Jianghu activated the reappearance of Hidden Spirit and Immortal Shield. Then he used the first form of the Heavenly Blade, Moonslaying. Boom. The two retreated some distance, but Jianghu did not stop. He attacked. It seems you've truly chosen the path of no return, Yu Wei said solemnly. Jianghu moved forward and laughed. The road is long, but there is always a way back. Jianghu felt that the people around him had locked onto him. Everyone in the late and middle stage of the return to Void Realm had joined forces to attack him. It was something he had never experienced in his life before. However, he was unusually calm. He had immersed himself in the role of Smiling San Sheng and felt almost excited about the fight. There was madness in his eyes. Chapter 608, Stars Reversed. Seeing Smiling San Sheng taking action, the onlookers knew that the opponent was doomed. The maid behind me Lingyue sighed. Smiling San Sheng has shown quite formidable combat power, but unfortunately, such a person will not bow down and will ultimately die here. If we had enough people, we could try to save him. Once we win him over, there will be some benefits in the future, said another maid regretfully. It's not possible. If someone tries to save him, many will intervene. Smiling San Sheng is too reckless, and many people won't allow such a dangerous person to exist. It seems that Smiling San Sheng will die here. It seems even the End of All Things doesn't care. The End of All Things is a strange organization. There's hardly any talk of saving each other among them. It's mostly about using their members to achieve their goals. Mi Lingyue felt they were jumping to conclusions too early. Didn't they see the excitement in Smiling San Sheng's eyes? Could such a person fall so easily? She couldn't believe it. Even if he fell, he must make the other side pay some price. In the cabin, the elder of the End of All Things just looked on. Beside him appeared a middle-aged man. Elderly, it seems Smiling San Sheng is going to die. It can't be helped. He acts too recklessly, Elderly said calmly. Smiling San Sheng's life and death had no meaning for him. Boom. In the sky, Jianghu pushed Yu Wei back, stood in midair and faced everyone. Bai Ying frowned. He didn't want to kill Smiling San Sheng. He was a good tool, and it would be difficult to find another one like him. Unfortunately, under such pressure, the opponent had no intention of bowing down at all. With such strength, it's no wonder he dared to be so arrogant. At that moment, Bai Ying's power erupted and suppressed Smiling San Sheng. Smiling San Sheng, do you still remember that you have a lady with you? You should know that many people have their eyes on her. Whether you die or escape, you will eventually part ways. Are you willing for that to happen? The power of the late stage of the return to the Void Realm was extraordinary. The aura made Jianghu hesitate. But at that moment he didn't confront it. Instead, he utilized this power and arrived in front of a cultivator at the peak of Soul Ascension Realm. He smiled at the person and immediately swung his blade. Jianghu stepped on the opponent's corpse and looked up at Bai Ying in the sky. With the wind at my back, the horse gallops fast. I don't believe in separation in this world. Smiling San Sheng, you brought this upon yourself, Bai Ying said. His face clouded with gloom. Yu Wei also erupted with all his strength. He intended to kill the person in front of him. Other powerful individuals nearby also made their moves. This time they wanted to show him who was stronger. Jianghu looked at the people around him and raised the fan in his hand. At that moment, the fan gradually transformed into a silver-white long knife. The primordial heavenly blade appeared. Jianghu looked at the overwhelming and suffocating power, and a wild smile appeared on his lips. He no longer had a way back now. But he felt no despair in his heart. Instead, there was a kind of excitement. Perhaps he really had taken himself for Smiling Sansheng. Uninhibited, fearless, and ready for life and death. Today, I will wield my blade fearlessly and cut down millions of enemies. The heavenly blade emitted a brilliant light as if feeling its owner's emotions for the first time. It seemed to be joyful. He used the fourth form of heavenly blade, no regrets. Boom. Endless blade lights appeared around Jianghu and reversed like a waterfall and rose into the sky. The fierce and powerful intent of the blade collided in the air and covered the whole sky. Everyone felt it. Smiling Sansheng was determined to perish with everyone. Kill him. Bai Ying shouted. He mobilized his cultivation realm and tried to suppress Smiling Sansheng. However, it was too late. The blade light resembled a starry river. The dazzling blade intent stunned everyone below. This is crazy, Mi Lingyue's maids were shocked. At that moment they looked up at the sky. They didn't know who would survive. The starry blade light came and went quickly. One after another, Yu Wei and the others appeared. Everyone thought Smiling Sansheng had lost. However, as the blade light and starry river completely dissipated, the highest point in the sky revealed the figures of Bai Ying and Smiling Sansheng. At that moment, Smiling Sansheng stood high in the sky. The knife in his hand had turned into a fan. He looked full of vitality in his white robes. The sea breeze blew, and Smiling Sansheng suddenly moved. He opened the fan and descended from the sky. The first to pass was the angry Bai Ying. Everyone felt that several figures in the sky were chasing Smiling Sansheng. Under this illusion, Smiling Sansheng looked resolute. He descended slowly. There was Yu Wei, the young woman, and others. You chase after me relentlessly, and seek a glimpse of my blade, with the dazzling blade intent like a starry river illuminating tens of millions of miles. Enough to astonish you for a lifetime. Jianghu never stopped. He descended slowly. But no matter how dazzling the blade is, once swung it will eventually fall. In the future I will strike with an even more vast blade and you. Jianghu passed over everyone in the air and turned to look at Bai Ying and the others. You will be left with regrets and trapped in my blade. Jianghu gently drew out a blade. This slash was like a gentle breeze brushing over the face. It dispersed the scent of blood and annihilated the figures of Bai Ying and the others. The originally powerful individuals dispersed like dust. Jianghu landed on the deck and stood with his hands behind his back. In an instant the entire deck fell into a stunned silence. Everyone looking at Jianghu felt it was unbelievable. Did Smiling Sansheng win? How could that be possible? Jianghu smiled and walked toward the cabin. His steps were steady but each step left behind bloodstains. He was severely injured. Right now, even a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator could kill him. Even so, he still had to remain calm and deter everyone around him. The severity of the injuries made each step difficult for him. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the corridor. Jianghu's heart sank. The footsteps meant that someone was about to attack him. He stood in place. His face remained unchanged. A moment later, a red and white figure appeared before his eyes. She moved toward him elegantly. In just a few breaths, she stood in position just one step away from him. Then she reached out her hand. Although her bright eyes seemed calm, they carried something different. Jianghu placed his hand on her palm. "Thank you, senior," he said weakly. At this moment he really couldn't move anymore. "Is this really you or Smiling Sansheng?" said Hong Yuye in a voice devoid of emotion. "It's not me. How can I ever afford to be so reckless?" Jianghu's voice was very weak. "Is that so?" Hong Yuye didn't ask further as if she already understood. Chapter 609. The outstretched hand of the Demoness was like a light in the darkness. In the corridor, two figures walked hand in hand. Under the gaze of the crowd, they gradually disappeared into the distance. Many outside wanted to make a move, but in the end they gave up. At this moment, the middle-aged man beside Elderly said, "Smiling Sansheng is injured and already on the verge of collapse. If someone makes a move, it will be a sure kill. The woman by his side is not a threat." "Yes. Smiling Sansheng is heavily injured. Anyone on the ship could kill him easily. But why is no one taking action?" Elderly asked. "Are they afraid?" Does Smiling Sansheng have someone backing him? The middle-aged man asked. No. Elderly shook his head. Behind the people present there are various forces. Not everyone despises Smiling Sansheng. Initially, most wanted Smiling Sansheng dead, and even if someone wanted to save him, it was difficult to defuse the situation. But now the situation has changed. The strength Smiling Sansheng displayed far exceeded expectations. If someone makes a move, it means they are sure that Smiling Sansheng has no more strength left. That's a risky bet. Others can bet that Smiling Sansheng still has strength and will stand up for him. If someone does that, then they will have to stand by it. It's all very complicated. How can it be explained in just a few words? The middle-aged man nodded. After hesitating for a moment, he asked curiously, Elderly, do you think Smiling Sansheng still has strength left? No, but I also dare not make a move, Elderly said calmly. The middle-aged man was surprised. Let's go. There's no need to linger here. Elderly turned and left. Smiling Sansheng's final strike was very powerful, but the aftermath will torment him for a long time. There are plenty of opportunities if you want to take action against him. There's no need to do it at this moment. The old man left the scene. Meanwhile, Mi Lingyue, who was secretly watching Elderly, sighed. If only this person had taken action. She had just given orders for the two maids to keep a close eye. If anyone made a move, they should intervene. This way they could establish a good relationship with Smiling Sansheng. She had been wary of him from the beginning. Collaborating with someone this powerful could reap unexpected gains. Even if Smiling Sansheng really died in the end, she would suffer no losses. As for being enemies with others, when personal interests were common, there were no enemies. How did Smiling Sansheng win? One of the maids asked in confusion. Anyway, he can afford to be arrogant. The strike just now was unbelievable, but he must have suffered a tremendous backlash. It's hard to say if he can recover, said another maid. Mi Lingyue had also noticed it. She could see that the previous move had almost drained Smiling Sansheng of all his strength, as if everything was concentrated on that terrifying blade's intent. It would be difficult to recover, but she still felt that this person was extremely dangerous. She must not make him an enemy at any cost. At that time there were many who expressed regret. Ran Hui had seen everything. As an ordinary person he could understand it as well. The scholar who helped him was indeed extraordinary. When he descended to the deck, he stood with his hands behind his back. Nobody had dared to utter a word. He was truly incomparable. Such a person was admirable, but he was just a commoner and dared not ask for too much. He only wished for a peaceful life with his wife. The entire ship was silent. The silence lasted for 7 days. During this time, Smiling Sansheng did not appear again. Many people were restless. They wanted to know what was happening. Some guessed secretly that Smiling Sansheng had already secretly left, and others thought that Smiling Sansheng was heavily injured and beyond recovery. However, even if rumors were everywhere, no one dared to break open that wooden door and peek inside. They could only wander around and keep a close watch. As time passed, the ship began to dock. After stopping for a day, they set sail again. 5 days later they would dock again, and it would be the last stop. When the ship docked, the influence of Smiling Sansheng quietly dissipated. However, that didn't mean people weren't curious. Some were even planning to knock on the door and ask if he needed any help. They wanted to know what was happening. Let's try it. Now that the ship is docked, we can approach with good intentions. He won't have any reason to act against us even if he has recovered. 3 people were discussing it secretly. But what if he attacks us? A worried woman asked. We can bring a gift. If anything seems off, we can offer the gift to save ourselves. It's best to make it valuable, said another person. What if we find out he's not in a good condition? The woman asked. Don't make a move. Sell the information to others, said the other person. Okay. At that moment, a woman walked toward the room where Jianghu was. Since the bloodstains were quite obvious, there was no confusion about which room Jianghu was in. Inside the room, Jianghu slowly opened his eyes. Not only had he returned to his peak state, but his strength had also improved. The no regrets technique is unexpectedly terrifying, truly beyond my expectations. He had underestimated the power of that technique. At the same time, his understanding of the backlash of the no regrets technique was insufficient. In any case, he wouldn't choose the no regrets technique. If it weren't for Hong Yuye, he might have been in danger. Or perhaps it was because she was there that smiling Sansheng could afford to be so reckless. He didn't know what he was thinking. At that time he didn't have many thoughts. He was just thinking about applying what he had learned. But it had made him appear foolish. In the past, when Hong Yuya was present, he would not display his skill with the heavenly blade. Now that he had used it, it would surely be noticed by her. The revival of withered wood ability manifested automatically to heal his severe injury. However, the reason he was able to recover so quickly this time was that he had taken the Sea God pill. In just 3 days he had mostly recovered. The following steps were recuperation and absorbing the gains from this incident. The no regrets technique made him understand more about the 7 forms of heavenly blade, and he gained better control of the strength within his body. Now he was somewhat stronger than he was before when swinging the blade. Of course, after unleashing that technique, he was only calm because the revival of withered wood helped him. The reason he had been able to walk back to his room was only because Hong Yuya had come out to meet him. So he sincerely thanked her. Her outstretched hand had been like a glimmer of light in the darkness. After a moment of silence, Jianghu looked back at the no regrets technique once again. At that moment, blade intent appeared around him, and a glint of blade light emanated from his eyes. Suddenly the knocking interrupted him. "Who is it?" he asked instinctively. The blade intent surged around him. In an instant the person at the door seemed to feel the oppression, and their breathing halted. They regretted coming here. Chapter 610, Be more careful in your next life. "Senior, we brought you a gift," said a voice from the door. Jianghu frowned but still moved toward the door. As he opened the door, he saw a young woman of around 17 or 18. She was in the middle of Soul Ascension realm. In reality she wasn't that young. She was putting up a disguise. "Greetings, Senior," said the woman. She was wearing a pink gown and her hair was tied up in a bun. "Are you looking for me?" Jianghu asked calmly. The young woman smiled. "Our elders admire your fortitude, Senior. We haven't seen you for a few days and we were concerned. I was specially assigned to bring this to you." She handed over a delicate box. Jianghu saw that it was a spirit herb. It could invigorate the body's lifeblood and spiritual energy. It seemed to be some kind of healing spirit herb. "Thank you, fellow disciple. I accept it with gratitude." Would smiling Sansheng refuse something offered for free? Also, the ship has docked. If you want to go ashore for a stroll, it's better to do it early, Senior. "We'll be setting sail in a little while," said the young woman. Jianghu nodded and thanked her. He then closed the door. The young woman breathed a sigh of relief. Incurable injuries? How laughable. She had felt the chilling blade's intent. If she hadn't seen him, she wouldn't have believed it. Everyone guessed wrong. The rumors were wrong. Smiling Sansheng had recovered. She didn't know when he had recovered. It seemed like he was waiting for her to come to him. If she had shown hostility, even thinking about it made her shudder. Inside the room, Jianghu sighed as he looked at the box. "Do you not like it?" said a sudden voice. Jianghu almost replied. He turned to see Hong Yuya sitting in the corner and drinking tea. He hadn't noticed her just then. "It seems you didn't notice me," Hong Yuya said with a smile and held up her teacup. Jianghu caught himself and said respectfully, "Senior, your cultivation is incomparably vast, and your aura blends with heaven and earth. I am just a humble junior and find it difficult to perceive your awe-inspiring presence." Hong Yuya looked at the man in front of her. Jianghu broke into a cold sweat. After a little while he changed the subject. "Do you want to go ashore? I heard the ship has docked today." Hong Yuya placed the teacup on the table and stood up. "Let's go." Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. In the corridor, only the two of them were walking. Their walk was so synchronized that a person looking from the side would think only one person was walking around the corridor. "There are quite a few eyes around. It seems that I've attracted some people's attention. I'm sorry to have disturbed your peace, Senior," Jianghu said on the way. He could sense that some people were retreating, and others were trying to observe his condition. If he hadn't recovered quickly, he would have been facing a group of enemies. It didn't matter. Smiling Sansheng was not easy to provoke. There was a commotion outside. Jianghu also saw the light on the deck. Voices reached his ears. Why hasn't anyone paid attention to these two ordinary people until now? Did they deliberately wait for us to come? "Let me see what ability these ordinary people have to board this ship," said a sarcastic voice. "This small-footed one. This young lady is just perfect for practice." I only need one more vessel. Elder, my wife is hideous. I dare not dirty your eyes with my wife's appearance. Ugly? Then it's just perfect. I haven't tried the ugly ones yet. Shouts of surprise came from the crowd. Jianghu glanced at Hong Yuya. He was afraid such filthy language would offend her and ruin her mood. But Hong Yuya remained indifferent. He was unsure of her thoughts. After a while they arrived at the deck. The light shone on them. The voices suddenly fell silent. The middle-aged man who was watching the two ordinary people was stunned. He felt a sudden change in the atmosphere. He turned to look and saw a white-clad man behind him with a smile. He could clearly feel that the change in the surroundings had occurred because of this man. Fellow disciple, do you also wish to try? Asked the middle-aged man. Jianghu looked at the man in front of him. His behavior was not surprising. He appeared to be middle-aged with a chaotic aura all over his body. His eyes were clouded with desire. His lifeblood and spiritual energy were erratic. It showed signs of dual cultivation, but it was extremely crude. I do not wish to try. Jianghu shook his head. He wasn't interested in this at all. Then what do you think we should do with him? The middle-aged man asked. Although he didn't feel that this person was very powerful, the sudden change in the atmosphere on the deck indicated that he shouldn't be underestimated. I just want to tell you that I am observing these two people. I don't like being obstructed in my observation, Jianghu said calmly. I see. I apologize for disturbing you, fellow disciple, said the middle-aged man with a smile. He showed respect to this person. However, if some kind of accident happened to the two ordinary people after the person left, it wouldn't be the middle-aged man's fault. He often did things like this. Once the deed was done, there was nothing this person could do. He would just apologize and appear meek. In the end, all would be well. Well, think nothing of it. Jianghu smiled. The middle-aged man secretly rejoiced. It seemed this person was still too young to understand. Just as he was about to say something else, a fan suddenly touched his forehead. He heard laughter like a gentle breeze. Just be more careful in your next life. The sword's intent emerged. The middle-aged man's pupils contracted in fear and disbelief. Before he could even think, his consciousness faded. The ruthlessness of the person was almost demonic. After the blade light dissipated, the middle-aged man turned into fragments and fell to the ground. Jianghu kicked the storage treasure to Ran Hui. Help me sort that out. Give it back to me when I return. After saying that, he walked toward the shore with the woman by his side. No one dared to speak throughout the whole process. No one dared to do anything more. Smiling Sansheng's ruthlessness knew no bounds. Everyone became more wary. Mi Lingyue was watching from the shadows. She had just received the news that Smiling Sansheng had recovered. She didn't expect to see him come out as soon as she arrived and kill someone on the spot. How did he recover so quickly? As a master in various aspects, she had a deep understanding of Jianghu's previous condition. In theory, recovery should have been very difficult for him. She was deep in thought. Madam, should we try to make contact with him? A maid asked her. Mi Lingyue snapped back to reality. In fact, she was thinking not only of forming a good relationship with him but also of his purpose for this trip. The person in front of her was unique and perhaps he could help her. But things were too dangerous and she didn't dare trust him. On the other side, a rather humble middle-aged man also watched Jianghu depart. He was the man from before who had been short of 200 spirit stones. Smiling Sansheng. He used a spell to send out the information that he had seen and heard in the past few days while he was docked. Chapter 611. The people around Smiling Sansheng. Heavenly River Island was an extremely prosperous island in the Milky Way. On the eastern side of this island stood a tall building. It was called the Heavenly Tower. Many messages from the sea could be transmitted from here. At that moment, a young man walked into the backyard. He had a restrained aura, and his cultivation realm was not apparent, but his eyes were full of vitality. After a while he arrived in front of a room. He bowed respectfully and said, "Mr. Tao, I pay my respects." Creak. The door automatically opened. Inside the room, a middle-aged man sat cross-legged, with a rather robust physique. He didn't look like a scholar at all. "Zhu Shen, it's been a long time." Mr. Tao's voice was deep and warm. "Mr. Tao, you've been in seclusion for quite some time, and I didn't dare to disturb you. Zhu Xin said with a respectful bow. Is there any news? Mr. Tao got up and walked to the table to pour some tea. I received information about a person from the ship, and it felt rather unusual, Zhu Xin said. Who is it? Mr. Tao gestured for the person in front of him to sit down. Zhu Xin sat down. Smiling Sansheng. Smiling Sansheng? Mr. Tao paused. When did he appear? Earlier this month, on the coast, Zhu Xin said. It was now approaching the end of the month, which meant that he had been in the region for about half a month. Mr. Tao didn't seem too concerned about this but asked more about Smiling Sansheng. Zhu Xin explained everything. At first, the informant investigated as soon as he received the information. They bought their tickets from the Blood Dragon sect, and they managed to get the tickets after some confrontation. Afterward, he appeared on the ship and acted very arrogant. Not long ago, he used a single move to kill 8 people from the Great Thousand God sect. Were also 2 others in the Soul Ascension realm. He used a sword technique that could only be described as all-encompassing. All of this is relatively normal. Except for his exceptionally powerful combat ability, nothing else is particularly outstanding. The issue is that everyone believed he was severely wounded and close to death, yet 7 days later he has already recovered to his peak. Perhaps he had some sort of healing divine medicine? Mr. Tao asked. There is indeed such a possibility, but the informant still finds it strange. He intentionally attracted everyone's attention in the beginning as if knew he was extraordinary from the very beginning, said Zhu Xin. What did the informant sense that was so strange? Mr. Tao asked. It seems Smiling Sansheng seems to like helping the weak, or he may feel some goodwill toward struggling people. But his personality is strange. It might be necessary to try to make contact with him. Furthermore, when getting close to him, one will have an inexplicable palpitation without any apparent reason, Zhu Xin said. Mr. Tao lowered his head and remained silent for a while. Is Smiling Sansheng traveling alone? That is strange as well, Zhu Xin said. The informant mentioned that Smiling Sansheng is traveling with another person, and it was specifically stated that there are 2 people. However, he doesn't mention the other person at all as if he's forgotten all about them. Maybe he didn't even realize it. Mr. Tao sipped his tea in silence. What is Smiling Sansheng's purpose for this trip? He asked. I don't know. Zhu Xin shook his head and thought for a moment. Most of the people on the ship are heading to Chaos Stone Island for the true dragon's blood. At least the forces behind them are. Mr. Tao smiled. Where has Tianqin been lately? He's been on a mission outside, but he should be heading to Chaos Stone Island in a few days, Zhu Xin said. But he couldn't understand the connection between the two. Mr. Tao chuckled. Tell those who are observing not to offend Smiling Sansheng. Don't stop him no matter what he does. Something might happen on Chaos Stone Island, so let him protect himself as much as possible. Understood. Zhu Xin didn't know what Mr. Tao meant, but he didn't ask any further questions. Is it still impossible to summon the ancestral dragon's heart? Mr. Tao asked. Someone has invoked the ancestral dragon's heart, but it still cannot be truly summoned. They're all waiting for the trade on Chaos Stone Island, Zhu Xin said. Whether the dragon blood is genuine is still debatable, and others won't just wait for the answer on Chaos Stone Island. They'll come up with other methods. They might even search for the ruins of the true dragon clan. That involves too many complications. We can just observe from afar, Mr. Tao said. Zhu Xin nodded and hesitated for a moment. Mr. Tao, be careful. Other gentlemen in the building have realized that you have chosen the wrong path, and they are looking for opportunities to target you. Once the situation becomes clear, you might face many problems. If you can't overpower those who provoke you, it will greatly affect you. Do you need to secretly collect information in this regard? Mr. Tao looked at Zhu Xin with a meaningful smile. Yes. Let's start collecting. There was a small island where the surroundings were quite ordinary, but the place carried a unique charm. Jianghu followed Hong Yuya and walked along the path. Senior, how do you find the scenery here? Jianghu asked softly. There weren't many people here. Although cultivators gathered here, they only stayed briefly. Occasionally, some news would leak out, but it took time to ask about it. On the way, people mentioned dragon blood. He surmised that many people on the ship had come for the ancestral dragon's heart. At the very least, the forces behind them had. As for Mi Lingyue, she was not like them. She had come to report and find a way to escape from the Great Thousand God sect. Is it so difficult to leave the sect as an undercover agent? He couldn't say for sure. Jianghu didn't dare to think too much about it during the gathering. However, now that he was following Hong Yuye, he had to be cautious. If he got distracted and was discovered, it could easily lead to disaster. This is a cage, Hong Yuye suddenly said. Cage. Jianghu was surprised. Underneath, there should be something imprisoned here, Hong Yuye said and lowered her head. Jianghu was astonished. He tried to find some clues in the surroundings. But he found nothing. Was it because he hadn't studied the nameless manual enough? At that moment Hong Yuye spoke. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to look down. You need to learn to look up. Look up. Jianghu looked up. The bright sky showed no signs of change. The blue sky and white clouds were no different from the usual. But after watching for a long time, the white clouds seemed to change subtly as if other auras were gathering and dispersing there. However, this gathering and dispersing were common when spiritual energy was condensed. It was not strange. What could be imprisoned here? He asked instinctively. Overseas is vast, and the ocean floor is beyond the sight of the cultivation world, Hong Yuye said. She didn't say much, but Jianghu remembered this place. It was Nine Falling Island. The two walked along the path and admired the scenery. Shaoli hasn't gone out of the sect for a long time, said Hong Yuye suddenly. Jianghu felt nervous. He was unsure of Hong Yuye's intentions. Occasionally, I asked Ching Cho to take her out to pay respects to her parents, said Jianghu. Hong Yuye stopped and looked at the person beside her. Don't you take her out of the sect sometimes? I've attracted a lot of attention, and it's dangerous for Shaoli to follow me, Jianghu said. You're smiling Sansheng, aren't you? Do you need to be so cautious? Hong Yuye smiled. Jianghu was stunned. That's only a disguise for outsiders. Hong Yuye looked at him calmly. In the end she didn't say anything more. She continued walking forward. Jianghu followed but planted a ring in a hidden place. They would soon enter Chaos Stone Island, and he needed to be prepared. In the afternoon Jianghu and Hong Yuye returned to the large ship. Before long the ship set sail again. This time when they docked there were more people on the ship, but their mood was low. After all, they had witnessed smiling Sansheng murdering someone as soon as he came out of his room. No one was happy about that. Chapter 6:12. Everyone has the right to choose. After retrieving the storage treasure from Ran Hui, Jianghu returned to his room. He looked around to make sure everything was fine before taking out the storage treasure. He wanted to check how many spirit stones were inside. Previously, he hadn't taken it out because he thought Hong Yuye would say something, and he would have had to discard the storage treasure. So, he left it with Ran Hui to clean the storage treasure and safeguard it for him. He wasn't very rich, but there are quite a few books. There were only 7,636 spirit stones. There was only one type of pill, and it was one he hadn't seen before. There was a good amount of it, though. It's not a healing pill, nor a cultivation-enhancing one, so it shouldn't be worth much. The books seem unusual. Jianghu took out one of the books, which read, The 8 Wonders of Floral Formations. Is this about formations? Jianghu felt a bit disappointed. He didn't study formations. However, he could take a look at it anyway. If it was highly advanced, he might be able to sell it for a good price. As he flipped it open, Jianghu's brows furrowed. A few pages later, his pupils dilated in astonishment. He closed the book and looked around. Once he saw that no one was nearby, he breathed a sigh of relief. However, he didn't dare to read any further. He was afraid that Hong Yuye would suddenly appear behind him. He had a subconscious feeling that it might be much safer to read it after he activated the Heavenly Cauldron. He then looked at the other books, the Classic of the Pure Woman, Scenes of Love and Lust, The Union of Yin and Yang in 6 volumes, and so on. Jianghu set all the books aside and fell into deep thought. He didn't know how to handle them for a moment. Should he burn them? It would be a pity to do so. Should he sell them? How would he even go about selling them? Should he keep them? He was afraid of being discovered. After much hesitation, Jianghu made a decision. I'll seal them. He used the universe in a palm technique and sealed the books in a purple sphere in his hand. He decided to find a suitable place to exchange the books for spirit stones later. After that, Jianghu turned his attention to the pills. He appraised them. Soon he received feedback from his divine ability. It was a pill meant to be used in conjunction with the content of the books. Its effects were quite wild. For a moment he couldn't help but wonder if this pill would be effective for him. Finally he sealed the pills too. He planned to sell them later. Only one question remained. What identity should he use to sell them? Smiling Sansheng was not this kind of person. Should he sell it as himself? That didn't seem like a good idea. The fan could change into different forms, so there was a chance he could use another disguise. Finally he focused on the gains from the spirit stones. Adding to what he already had, there were 38,000 spirit stones. He still had some items on him that hadn't been sold yet. Once they were sold he would have around 80,000. I'm getting rich. Jianghu stored everything and began to study the fourth form of the heavenly blade, no regrets. The more he studied it, the deeper his understanding of the 7 forms of heavenly blade became. The blade intent in his eyes also grew stronger. When he unleashed his blade again, its power would reach new heights. 5 days later the ship docked again. This time Jianghu and Hong Yuye stood on the deck and enjoyed the scenery. Nobody paid attention to Ran Hui anymore. That day the ship set sail again. After that they crossed the endless sea fog. It wasn't clear which direction they were headed. They couldn't even see the sea ahead. There was thunder in the sky. If not for the large ship, few people could traverse this area. The whole experience was disorienting. 3 days later, the large ship passed through the sea fog and arrived in a calm sea with clear skies. We finally arrived. A few days later than expected. On the deck someone sighed. It's probably because of Smiling Sansheng. He disrupted the plans of many people. Let's not mention him. Just talking about him makes me afraid that he'll kill another. Others nodded. Despite Smiling Sansheng's gentle front, he could kill someone in the next second. He was truly unpredictable. To say that his temperament was strange would not be an understatement. Standing on the deck, Mi Lingyue also sighed. In the end, she didn't approach Smiling Sansheng because she couldn't understand his intentions. The danger was too high and she didn't dare take the risk. Madam, these people are all here for dragon's blood. Should we get involved? Asked a maid. No, that is not our purpose. There's no need to take risks. Mi Lingyue shook her head. The ship docked. Let's go. Mi Lingyue took flight on her sword. Upon reaching the shore, many people flew toward the central part of the island. That was the destination of their journey. Because of Smiling Sansheng, they had to get there ahead of time. Otherwise it might cause trouble. At this moment, Jianghu arrived at the deck. He turned to Ran Hui and his wife and whispered, "Shall we go together?" Ran Hui, who had been waiting to disembark, was stunned. He quickly helped his wife up and nodded in response. Hong Yuye walked alongside Jianghu and didn't say anything. It seemed that she never interfered with Jianghu's actions or decisions. "Thank you, immortal elder," Ran Hui said gratefully. He knew that without the person in front of him, he and his wife would have died long ago. "Did you come here to escape or cure your wife?" asked Jianghu. "Cure her?" Ran Hui was surprised. His wife seemed anxious. "Even changing her appearance won't help," said a faint voice. At that moment, Hong Yuye suddenly reached out and pulled down the woman's robe. The woman was frightened. She held on to Ran Hui tightly and bowed her head to try to avoid being seen. However, Jianghu still saw her. Her face was full of scars. There was even a burn mark on the cheek. "It seems you've indeed tried many methods," Jianghu said. He remained calm. He wasn't affected because of the poison. His state of mind helped a great deal too. "But it's useless," Ran Hui said helplessly. "I might have a way, but I don't know if it'll work. If it fails, there's a possibility you might end up dead," Jianghu said solemnly. "You can consider it. Before I leave, I will contact you again. The choice is up to you." Jianghu didn't linger. He indeed had a way, but there were things he couldn't foresee. As for whether they were willing, that depended on the two people. If they were willing, it was a small effort on his part. If they weren't, he wouldn't bother with it. Everyone had the right to choose, but everyone also had to bear the consequences of their choices. On the ship, Li watched Smiling Sansheng leave with a slight frown. The arrival of the person could easily affect his position on the island. Will Smiling Sansheng's audacity affect this trade? A middle-aged man behind him asked. This is Chaos Stone Island. Once there's trouble, someone will handle it naturally. But take a few people and inform them that this is our place for external trade. Advise him to be less aggressive. Taking a loss isn't a big deal. The overall situation is what matters, Li said. The big picture is important. No matter who it is, we have to be patient. We can indeed suppress him. The middle-aged man nodded. For safety's sake, take the island master's token with you, Li said. The middle-aged man was delighted. Chapter 6:13. Smiling Sansheng is actually a woman. Jianghu left. Ran Hui and his wife were also working hard for their future. Jianghu didn't know their decision because he wasn't sure what mattered to Ran Hui more, a future with her or her charm physique. Even if she was disfigured, her gift still exuded unparalleled allure. Ordinary people couldn't resist it. Could Ran Hui resist it, or was he captivated by the allure? Ordinary people didn't possess strong mental fortitude to remain unaffected by the charm. So, it was unclear whether Ran Hui only loved his wife because of the influence of the charm or if he really loved her. If it was the former, that was to be expected. Many went crazy over someone with a charm physique. If it was the latter, it was an extremely rare case. He left the choice to them. Senior, what do you think they will choose? Jianghu asked curiously on the way. Perhaps Hong Yuya could understand something he did not. Who can say for sure when it comes to the affairs of the heart? Said Hong Yuya as she walked ahead. Didn't you mention someone who loved someone with a charm physique before? Shang'an? Jianghu said. Right. Did he love the person or her charm? Hong Yuya suddenly asked. Jianghu lowered his head. He was unwilling to admit it. I think he liked her irrespective of the charm. He still remembered that the charm goddess had instructed Shang'an to attack him, but Shang'an had refused. It meant Shang'an was unaffected by her charm, and he truly saw her for herself. He had his own values, morals, and worldview. Why can't it be possible that this person is the same? Maybe his decision is his own, said Hong Yuya. Jianghu remained silent for a moment. Was it because the other person wasn't special enough? Or was Shang'an too unique? He couldn't find an answer. From what he knew, it seemed that Ran Hui's mind hadn't been influenced. There were occasional passers-by on the road. Unlike other islands, this island had ordinary people. There were quite a few of them. Jianghu looked at them but didn't think much about them. When I left just now, they had no answer. I don't know if they are afraid of dying or something else, Jianghu said softly. How confident are you? Hong Yuya asked. 70%. But even if I was 99% sure, I would still say the same thing. No one knows what might happen at the last minute, said Jianghu truthfully. He helped them out of kindness. It was a small effort. After all, he used the identity of Smiling Sansheng. He had nothing to lose. Do you hope for a good ending for them, Senior? Jianghu asked. Hong Yuya just glanced at him but didn't answer. The two hurried toward the center of the island. They wanted to ask about the location of the 7-day village. Tianchen's child was there, and finding him meant finding Tianchen himself. Then they would know whether the stone tablet came from him. Senior, please wait, said a voice suddenly. Jianghu looked over and saw a young cultivator. He had a good cultivation base and was at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. He looked about 28 or 29, but his actual age was unclear. He might not be that young. Young friend, you called me? Jianghu asked. He imitated Dan Yuan. However, Hong Yuya seemed to give him a peculiar look. Is this the first time you have come to Chaos Stone Island, Senior? The young cultivator was dressed somewhat messily and tidied up as he came over. I'm Jing Fengyun. Greetings to both of you, seniors. How did you know it's our first time here? Jianghu asked. Because those who come to Chaos Stone Island are here for trade or have their own purposes, and they head to the center of the island. However, the location there is first come, first served. The better trades will be taken by the earliest arrivals. Seniors, you arrived late. It implied that it was your first time here. Jianghu nodded and was about to say something, but the young man continued. By the way, I just heard that Smiling Sansheng is here this time. The rumors aren't good and the best trades this time might be taken by him. But I think he's an imposter. Jianghu was surprised. Why do you say that? I've seen Smiling Sansheng, Jing Fengyun said confidently. She is actually a woman. I saw it with my own eyes. Jianghu found it amusing. Are you familiar with her? I can definitely talk to her. You can rest assured, Senior. So, should I lead the way for you? Jing Fengyun asked. Your cultivation isn't bad. Do you lack spirit stones? Jianghu was curious. There was no law against having a guide, but it seemed strange to him. This wasn't an immortal sect after all. Nobody was required to give a tour. I want to ask you a question relating to my cultivation realm. I find it difficult to advance. I don't know where the problem lies, Jing Fengyun said respectfully. Jianghu intended to use his appraisal on this person, but Hong Yuye was present, so he was hesitant to do it. Hong Yuye was unaware of the function of this ability. He didn't want to expose himself. Well, it depends on how much effort you put in while showing us the way, Jianghu said. I will do my best to guide you wherever you want to go, Jing Fengyun said earnestly. Then he asked for Jianghu's name. You mentioned someone impersonating smiling Sansheng, right? Just assume I'm one of them. Call me Sansheng, said Jianghu. Jing Fengyun didn't know what to think of this person, but he agreed. So, Senior Sansheng, what do you intend to learn about first? Jing Fengyun asked. There seem to be quite a few ordinary people here, Jianghu said. Although he wasn't concerned, he wanted to ask about it. Would the end of all things allow these ordinary people to live here? Logically, they wouldn't. They need some tasks to be done, so ordinary people are allowed to live here, said Jing Fengyun. The people gathered here joined the end of all things because of their hatred and helplessness. That's not all. After joining, they earn spirit stones. Once life is easier, they change. Once they change, they strive for something better. However, these people can never become the higher-ups ot the end of all things. It is said that those who can rise to the top not only have exceptional talent but also steadfast willpower. Jianghu understood that people changed. Are there many villages in Chaos Stone Island? There aren't any villages here. This isn't a place for ordinary people to live comfortably. Naturally, there are no villages here, Jing Fengyun said. No villages? Jianghu looked at the young man and whispered, Have you heard of the 7-Day Village? The 7-Day Village? Jing Fengyun was surprised. I've heard of it, or to be precise, I've heard of it several times, but I don't know the specific location of the village. It's said that only members of the end of all things can enter that village. That village is strange. According to some, there is nothing valuable in that village. But no one wants to pry. Chapter 6:14. There is no one on this island that I, smiling Sansheng, fear. Jianghu walked on the mountain road ahead. Hong Yuye was by his side. She went unnoticed. Even Jing Fengyun paid her little attention. Jianghu was not surprised by this. After all, he was the one taking action. Hong Yuye was just accompanying him, even though she was the mastermind behind the scenes. However, she had never insisted on coming out to the forefront. On the way, Jianghu was thinking about the 7-Day Village. Tianquan's child was inside that village. Did that mean it was a safe place? Did it also indicate that it was a gathering place for members of the end of all things? It seemed likely. But the purpose of the end of all things was to destroy everything. Would such a force really establish a refuge village? Jianghu couldn't be sure. He had to find a way to enter the village. How can one prove that they are a member of the end of all things? Jianghu asked. From what he knew, the end of all things did not have any identification method. Everyone knew that Smiling Sansheng was a member of the end of all things. But he didn't have any credentials. Was there a secret code? The codes changed frequently. Jing Fengyun thought about it. It seems like there isn't a specific way to prove it. On Chaos Stone Island there is a method. If you are a member of the end of all things, you can get it from the island master's subordinates at the center of the island. Do they have a token or something like that? Jianghu asked. They usually have a secret code, Jing Fengyun said. The secret code is necessary for the end of all things. It's a way for them to designate tasks. Jianghu asked, What cultivation realm is the island master? The island master? Jing Fengyun fell into deep thought. According to rumors, the island master is not a high-ranking member of the end of all things, but his cultivation realm is definitely not weak. He is not considered an important figure in the end of all things. That's why the cultivation realms of people entering the island are restricted to below the immortal ascension platform. The island master is probably a cultivator of this realm, so he can control the overall situation. Immortal ascension platform. Jianghu felt that this was a bit troublesome. His cultivation was too low. It seemed like he needed to avoid conflict with the island master at any cost. But would Smiling Sansheng be afraid? He would probably avoid it, but not out of fear. He would have other cards up his sleeve. He had the Immortal Mountain and Sea Shield. As long as he held out a bit longer, he could use the 1,000 miles teleportation talisman to escape. Once he escaped, he would have some time to communicate with the ring he left on the small island. He could always return using the ring and attack again. The other person might surrender after a few back and forths. Jianghu smiled. When Jing Fengyun saw this, he was surprised. He felt that this senior's smile was somewhat unsettling. "Senior, aren't you going to the central area for trade? It's said that this time they have dragon's blood." Dragon's blood? Yes. It's said that dragon's blood is an unexpected gain for the end of all things. Consuming it can temper the body and condense a strand of true dragon's aura. It has many benefits for cultivation. It can resonate with things related to the dragon clan. It's a rare treasure. Even if you don't use it, the selling price outside is extremely high. Really? Jianghu was quite surprised. Yes. There are quite a few people outside begging for dragon's blood. Jing Fengyun nodded. Jianghu thought of Shaoli, extremely high price. Shaoli rarely encountered mishaps and she seldom suffered losses. The worst-case scenario for her would be embarrassment. He sighed inwardly and didn't think about it any further. People from overseas all coveted dragon's blood because it could summon the ancestral dragon's heart. Otherwise it wouldn't have caused such a stir. But he had no interest in it. Apart from Shaoli, Lu Xingchen had the remnant soul of a true dragon in him. Heavenly King Hai Luo had also told him that there might be real dragons beneath Chaos Stone Island. So, instead of dragon's blood, it would be better to look for real dragons. So many people are vying for it, but we don't need it for now, Jianghu said with a smile. Let's go to the island master's subordinates to get an identity token for the end of all things, and then we visit the 7-day village. Jianghu strode forward. Jing Fengyun was puzzled. But you have to be a member of the end of all things to get one. I told you I am Smiling Sansheng. Isn't he a member of the end of all things? Jianghu looked back at the young man behind him and smiled. What's there to fear? You're familiar with Smiling Sansheng, so just help me build up a convincing excuse. Jianghu said easily. Jing Fengyun felt a bit helpless and hesitated. Jianghu stopped and looked at him. He used what he had learned from the Nameless Manual. Although he couldn't find out everything, his observational skills were not bad. Even if he didn't understand this person's cultivation technique, he could tell whether the circulation of spiritual energy was smooth. At this moment, the young man in front of him had at least 3 places where spiritual energy was stagnant. These 3 places hindered the gathering of strength. Jianghu opened his fan and a gentle force hit the young man's shoulder. In an instant, the swirling aura was scattered. The flow of aura was smooth for a moment, but it would gradually congest again. This was due to the cultivation technique. As Jing Fengyun hesitated, he felt the smooth flow even before he advanced. This was an effect he hadn't achieved even after consulting many people. He was astonished. He looked at the senior in front of him. Shall we proceed? Jianghu asked with a smile. This time Jing Fengyun didn't hesitate at all. Let's go. He walked at the forefront. Is my condition serious, senior? Lead the way first, Jianghu said calmly with an air of mystery. In reality he didn't understand it. He could only ask Hong Yuya about it later. Being able to identify a problem was completely different from actually solving it. At the Chaos Stone Island, there was a large mansion now very far away from the center. Inside everything was orderly. The scenery was beautiful and the architecture was grand. Everything indicated wealth and status. Outside the main mansion was a smaller building with a long table inside. Sitting on the inner side of the table was a middle-aged man who appeared somewhat impatient. Across from him was a young man who looked frustrated. You clearly said you would give me the identity token today, so why are you saying there's no token left? The young man asked. We showed the secret code to the island master, but it seems it needs further verification. You'll have to wait, the middle-aged man casually said. Upon hearing this, the young man said indignantly, How many times has this happened? Every time you say it needs verification, but each time during the secret code change, you claim it's incorrect. Yesterday you assured me it would be fine today and now you're saying it's not? If it's not fine, it's not fine. What's the use of arguing with me? The middle-aged man said. Then who should I talk to? That's beyond my capacity. Then who's in charge? It's Senior Tianqin, but he's not available at the moment. So for now you'll have to continue waiting. Then the young man angrily walked away. Once he left, a servant entered. The middle-aged man handed over an identity token. Deliver this to that distinguished guest and make sure they settle the remaining spirit stones. Yes. The servant took the token and hesitated. Senior, if this is discovered, what will happen? What will happen? Daring to cause trouble here is challenging the island master. The island master rarely goes out, so there are guards to deal with troublemakers. Do these people still have the guts to cause trouble? The middle-aged man said coldly. Then he asked, how many more distinguished guests need identity tokens? There are 3 more, said the servant. Let them bid. Whoever offers the highest price will be given the next token, the middle-aged man said. Understood. The servant nodded in response. Chapter 6:15. Are you disappointed? Follow me, I'll overturn the world. In the center of the island there was a bustling city. This place is really amazing. Jianghu walked on the main road in awe. The streets here were clean and smooth with buildings standing side by side. They were similar in type but different in style. It was refreshing. There was no dirt or mess in the alleys. The entire city looked aesthetically pleasing. It seems they put a lot of effort into building this city, Jianghu said. Yes. The island master has invested a lot into this island. Jing Fengyun nodded. What kind of people live here? Jianghu asked. There were many ordinary people here and cultivators were everywhere too. Their cultivation realms were not weak. Some are ordinary people brought here by the end of all things, some are members of the end of all things who stay here, and some are like me who came here and didn't leave immediately. There are also some who took refuge here, Jing Fengyun said. Jianghu nodded. Ordinary people had to come in by boat from outside and only once a year. Once they took refuge here they would be much safer. Is there an inn? Jianghu asked. He had quite a few spirit stones and could afford to stay in any inn. He could sell a lot of things which would give him even more spirit stones. Inn? Jing Fengyun looked a bit puzzled but still nodded. Yes, but they are expensive. You can find a temporary residence among the residents in the city. No need. Just go and do your thing, Hong Yuya suddenly said. Jianghu turned to look and found her smiling. It seemed like she really wanted to see how he would handle things. What does she want to see? Jianghu wondered. In the past, Hong Yuya would rest at the inn while he dealt with some trivial matters. This change made him quite curious. Initially, his plan was to provoke the island master alone. Then he would leave Chaos Stone Island and come back at night. He would then destroy the island master's residence the next day and leave when the island master appeared. Again he would return at night. He would then proceed to destroy the trading center at dawn and leave again. As long as he wasn't caught, he would keep causing havoc until the island master would take action. Of course there was a problem. He had to be strong enough to endure the power of the Immortal Ascension platform. Otherwise, everything would be in vain. Furthermore, the golden ring must not be discovered. If that happened he wouldn't be able to return. Hong Yuya didn't have the one-heart palm anymore. If she activated the ring on her hand it could work. But now that Hong Yuya was following him, it was difficult for him to handle everything. Should he take her with him when he escaped? It felt like putting the cart before the horse. There was also a possibility that the other party would take action. After all, everything was for her purpose. It was only natural to make a move when encountering a strong enemy. Glancing again at the calm but suffocating face of the woman, Jianghu felt somewhat helpless. Life and death were in her hands. He had to be careful. She could afford to be laid back, but he couldn't be blindly confident. After all, they had been on an unequal balance from the very beginning. He looked at Jing Fengyun. Let's not go to the inn. Let's go get the identity token and ask how to get to the 7-day village. The 7-day village is a bit unique, senior. Let me handle it when the time comes, Jing Fengyun said. Many seniors were too impulsive and easily caused trouble. The members of the end of all things weren't easy to deal with, especially on Chaos Stone Island. They were the rulers here, and offending them meant not being able to buy a ticket to leave when the time came. Jianghu smiled and remained silent. Jing Fengyun didn't understand what kind of temperament the senior in front of him really had, so he could only lead the way for now. After all, there was a reason to go to the 7-day village if they could really obtain the identity token. If they couldn't get it, there would be trouble. On the way, Jianghu observed the surroundings. In the end he took a detour. When Jing Fengyun wasn't looking, he entered a house and planted a golden ring there. The place wasn't particularly concealed, but it did look wealthy. The family must have a high status here. There was a risk if there was a person with a very high cultivation realm in their family. They might sense the presence of the golden ring. Therefore, when he came out, he looked at Hong Yuye and said, "I'll have to trouble you, senior." Hong Yuye's eyes flickered and she smiled. "What are you willing to offer in return?" "I'll brew red azure tea for you tonight, senior," said Jianghu. "Since when can red azure tea be used as payment?" Hong Yuye smiled lightly and stared at him. He felt uneasy. A red light flashed in the house. It meant Hong Yuye had taken action. "Change it to September-spring," Hong Yuye said. Jianghu agreed reluctantly. He still had some red azure tea left, but he would have to buy the September-spring again. It cost over 30,000 spirit stones. Although it was painful, he hoped he could still sell a lot of things later. Losing 2,000 wasn't a big deal if he could earn it easily. As for the conversation between the two, Jing Fengyun seemed oblivious. He just felt that this senior really had taste in things. He was wandering around everywhere. He felt relieved. Just at that moment he heard angry voices ahead. "This is too much. Simply too much. They didn't even give me a token. They delayed it for so long. It's bad enough they delayed me, but they had the audacity to give the token to someone else. Outrageous." The voice piqued Jianghu's interest. In the alley, Zhang Long felt that something was wrong. He noticed a servant selling his token to a distinguished guest. The guest's cultivation realm was too high, and he had no choice but to swallow his anger. He was being mistreated and was desperate. Therefore he joined the end of all things. He thought he would finally have his revenge even if he died. But now he was humiliated. What was the point anyway? What was the use of joining the end of all things? He pounded his fists against the wall a few times and dropped his hand weakly. If he destroyed the walls here, he might attract the guards. And trouble would ensue. Zhang Long felt sad. As a Golden Core Realm cultivator, what had he achieved when he didn't even dare to destroy a wall? Why were other Golden Core Realm cultivators carefree and joyful, while he was bullied even for a token? "Are you angry? Are you disappointed with this world? Do you want to follow me? See how I can subvert the disappointing world for you?" said a sudden voice. Zhang Long felt surprised because he had heard similar words before. It was when the end of all things was trying to recruit him. He turned his head. There were 3 people in total. In the lead was a scholar with a folding fan in his hand. A woman stood beside him. It seemed she was his companion. On the other side, a man seemed to be showing them around. "Who are you? Are you from the end of all things? Do you use the same words to recruit people every time?" Zhang Long asked cautiously. The person was Jianghu. He squinted at the person in front of him. "Have you heard of it? So, the identity token you just mentioned is the one issued by the end of all things?" Chapter 616, Haven't you heard of a saying? From the anger and words of the other person, Jianghu knew this was someone with a story. Most likely they were members of the end of all things. If that was true, then the end of all things on Chaos Stone Island was no longer what it used to be. Normally, people from the end of all things were quite fearsome because they would use any means necessary for their ultimate goal. Dealing with such people was a headache for anyone, but once they started coveting wealth, they weren't as terrifying. The end of all things? Zhang Long laughed mockingly. "I'm not a member of the end of all things. I can't get the identity token of the end of all things because I don't have enough money. The end of all things only accepts people with spirit stones." "You are really pitiful." Jianghu smiled. "When did the end of all things come up with so many rules? Have you never seen a true member of the end of all things?" "A true member?" Zhang Long sneered. "A true member of the end of all things sits high and decides the life and death of those below with their words. Aren't they just oppressing us, pushing us down, and mistreating ordinary members?" "No. That is not the end of all things." Jianghu shook his head. "Then what is?" Zhang Long asked. He was utterly disappointed. Jianghu pointed to himself. "I am. If you haven't seen a true member of the end of all things, then today is your lucky day." "You? Who are you?" Zhang Long was puzzled. At that point, Jing Fengyun understood. "Have you heard of Smiling Sanxing? What you're seeing in front of you is the same person." "I haven't heard of them," Zhang Long said. "It doesn't matter." Jianghu smiled. "So, do you feel disappointed? Do you want to follow me and see how I can overturn the world you know? Zhang Long looked at Jianghu in silence for a moment before nodding. He couldn't read the person in front of him and didn't know if the person was telling the truth or just lying to him. But he had no choice left. He might as well take a chance. Jianghu waved his fan and smiled. Let's go. It just so happens that I need to get the identity token too and see how efficient they are at handling things. Senior, the Island Master's mansion has many powerful experts, Jing Fengyun said. If you're afraid, you can wait outside when the time comes, said Jianghu as he walked ahead. Jing Fengyun hesitated. Going in was extremely risky. At the same time, the rewards he would receive would also be a lot. Staying outside might be safer, but the senior might not be wholeheartedly willing when helping him with his cultivation problems later. Was it worth the risk? He needed to make a decision. They arrived at a small building. Is this the place? Jianghu looked at the imposing residence behind the small building and couldn't help but marvel at it. The island master here really knows how to enjoy his life. The person in charge of the small building is not very strong, but once there's a conflict, the guards in the mansion will take action. Among them, the chief guard has an astonishing cultivation realm and is capable of suppressing both major fights, Jing Fengyun said. He didn't wait outside but chose to go in together. After all, he had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. He might never have such an opportunity again. Yes. The guards are powerful and the chief guard is intimidating, Zhang Long said. Jianghu simply nodded and let Zhang Long lead the way. Zhang Long saw the middle-aged man from before when he entered the small building with the group. Jianghu saw the identity token on the table with the name, Tu Liang. It was quite an unusual name. Why are you here again? I've made it clear that your application is under review. What's the point of coming here again? If you have any issues, go and talk to the island master. See if the island master will handle it for you, Tu Liang said impatiently. I've already seen everything. You sold my token. Zhang Long shouted angrily. Tu Liang sneered. Yours? If you think I've done something wrong, you can report it to Senior Tianqin or the island master instead of shouting at me. If I really did something wrong, the island master or Senior Tianqin would punish me. I don't need to care about your verdict. Zhang Long was speechless. He still couldn't see Senior Tianqin or the island master anywhere. This was just a bureaucratic circle. Jianghu patted Zhang Long on the shoulder. Since your token is still under review, let me take the lead for now. Zhang Long was a bit puzzled but still stepped aside. Jianghu sat down and looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. I'm also a member of the End of All Things. Now, I want an identity token to work on this island. Tu Liang looked at Jianghu. Although he couldn't gauge the other party's cultivation realm, he wasn't intimidated by him either. Just because you say you're a member of the End of All Things, that makes you one? This island is full of people claiming to be a member of the End of All Things, said Tu Liang. You're right. So how should I prove it? Jianghu nodded. You don't even know how to prove it yourself and claim to be a member of the End of All Things? Tu Liang sneered. Jianghu was surprised. He thought the other party would ask him for a code, but it seemed that was not the case. You need the passcode, Zhang Long said. Oh. Jianghu acknowledged it and then asked Zhang Long to share the passcode. The reason he had brought Zhang Long over was for this. He didn't have the End of All Things as passcode. Zhang Long didn't hesitate even a bit and shared the passcode with him. Jing Fengyun was stunned. Was it okay to reveal the passcode so openly? Tu Liang looked at Jianghu and said nothing. He then picked up a pen and a piece of paper and asked, Name? Smiling San Sheng, Jianghu said. What is your mission on Chaos Stone Island? Tu Liang asked. No mission. Just here to stroll around, Jianghu said. Tu Liang raised an eyebrow at the person in front of him and then put down his pen. All right, I've noted it down. This will be under review. How long do I have to wait? Jianghu asked. It depends on how long the review takes. Either you wait a few more days or come by daily to inquire, Tu Liang said. Isn't that a bit inconvenient? Jianghu asked with a gentle smile. If it's inconvenient, report it to the island master, Tu Liang said coldly. Isn't there any way in which the process can be hastened? Asked Jianghu. I'm not in charge of this. If you want to improve efficiency, talk to Senior Tianqin, Tu Liang said. Can you help me pass a message to him? Jianghu asked. Sorry, I can't. If there's nothing else, you may leave. Tu Liang dismissed them. Well, Jianghu's lips curved into a sinister smile. What use do I have for you then? The fan moved and the blade appeared. Boom. Tu Liang was astonished. The blade cut into his skin. He was flung against the wall. His body bore multiple cuts. Although not fatal, it left him in a sorry state. Jianghu slowly stood up and looked at him. It seems you all have forgotten what the end of all things truly is. How dare you attack someone in charge of the Chaos Stone Island? Tu Liang roared. Chaos Stone Island? Isn't this the territory of the end of all things? Jianghu asked. Then he shook his head and sighed. It doesn't matter. Today let me tell you what kind of person truly embodies the ideals of the end of all things. Haven't you ever heard of the saying that the end of all things has no future but only a lingering last wish? Chapter 617. The Truth of the End of All Things. Who do you think you are? Tu Liang asked angrily. This is Chaos Stone Island. This is a place with rules. Without rules there is no order. These rules were set by the island master. Now you have taken action on your own and challenged the authority of the island master in the process. If you were truly a member of the end of all things, you wouldn't have acted against us in this way. Instead, you would have respected the jurisdiction of the island master. Even if you don't like me, you should serve the island master and use your identity and logic to file a complaint against me instead of attacking me in this manner. Are you a match for the island master? Are you a match for the chief guard? I am so disappointed. Jianghu looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. Don't you know that with my cultivation realm I could kill you effortlessly? Where do you get the courage to say such things? What a joke. Then why am I still alive? Isn't it because you don't dare to kill recklessly? Tu Liang seemed to gain more courage. Murdering someone is an entirely different thing. The fact remains that you attacked me and ignored the rules set by the island master. You will have to bear the consequences. You are truly beyond redemption. Jianghu shook his head. Then he moved his fan. The blade cut off the opponent's arm. A painful muffled sound came from Tu Liang's mouth. He held his severed arm and still firmly believed that he wouldn't die. Jianghu approached him. Are you scared? I thought you weren't afraid? If you kill me it'll only bring more trouble, said Tu Liang. Jianghu picked up the fan and placed it on the only remaining arm of the opponent. Then he lightly swiped it. Splat. Blood sprayed out. A cry of agony followed. Jianghu laughed. I thought you could rely on your rules to protect yourself from harm. Tu Liang leaned against the wall. He looked at the person before him in horror. He realized his own insignificant nature. Jianghu shook his head slightly and was about to finish him off. It had been so long and no one had come to look. The guards here seemed incompetent. However, just as he was about to take action, he suddenly felt a force from behind. He turned around to avoid it. Boom. The force blasted open the building. At that moment, Tu Liang ran outside. Jianghu did not stop him because he wanted him to experience what it truly meant to face a member of the end of all things. As smiling San Sheng, he understood the end of all things quite thoroughly. He understood it more than these people. Smiling San Sheng, how dare you kill someone here? The middle-aged man behind Elder Li walked to the front of the building. He was accompanied by many people. Tu Liang seemed to have found his savior and hid behind them. He taunted Jianghu. You can't preach now. Jing Fengyun and the others retreated to the side. They dared not get involved. Zhang Long didn't expect things to escalate this quickly. He thought it was a pity that Tu Liang wasn't dead though. Jianghu fanned himself and looked at the middle-aged man. Do you have something to say? The middle-aged man presented the token in his hand. This is the island master's token. Seeing this token is like seeing the island master himself. Now, I, in the role of the island master, order you to stand down. Today is Chaos Stone Island's important day. It's trading day. Whatever you want, you must consider the situation before you act. Otherwise, you will be presumed to be against the entire Chaos Stone Island. Jianghu couldn't help but laugh out loud. The island master's token? Consider the overall situation? He looked at the man in front of him. Are you still a member of the end of all things? What do you mean? The middle-aged man frowned. Do you know what kind of force the end of all things is? Jianghu walked step by step toward them. The end of all things. The end of all life on earth. That's the purpose of this organization. That's why we gather here. Do you know what it means to end all life? It means everyone must die. Anyone standing in the way will be eliminated, including the members themselves, if they stand in the way of the greater goal. Now you are blocking my path. Isn't it just as logical for me to end you here? Jianghu approached the middle-aged man. Somehow the fan had already touched the man's forehead. In horror, the middle-aged man said, "Consider the greater good, smiling San Sheng." Splat. The blade pierced through the middle-aged man's forehead. Jianghu smiled. "What is the greater good? The token in your hand? The island master you mentioned? Is he worth more than the goal of the end of all things?" The middle-aged man looked in horror at the man in front of him. For the first time he realized what arrogance and madness looked like. However, such answers made him pay with his life. In an instant he understood why others hated the end of all things so much. Such people were unreasonable and utterly illogical. A moonlight appeared. His vision became distorted. He had no power to resist the attack. From the beginning he had been suppressed by a divine aura of smiling San Sheng. It was too late to regret it. Jianghu beheaded the man in front of him with a single stroke of his blade and then looked at the others. "Are you all in this together? Attack!" One of them roared and rushed forward. Jianghu stepped forward and swung his blade. When facing enemies, he never underestimated or hesitated because he knew that they were powerful. If the opponent's cultivation realm was weak, it wasn't worth sparing them. At that moment everyone felt fear. They saw the young, scholarly-looking man killing the people one by one. Blood stained the ground. The blade swung ruthlessly. Regardless of the defenses the opponents used or the techniques they employed, he cut them down with a single stroke. When the last person fell, Jianghu looked at Tu Liang and smiled. "Do you now understand what the end of all things truly is? I am disappointed that you have survived here for so long and yet failed to grasp the essence of the end of all things." Tu Liang was terrified and lost for words. Jianghu turned to look at Zhang Long, who was hiding in the distance. "Do you want to kill him?" Zhang Long was shaken. But he walked to Jianghu's side. Jianghu handed the enemy's sword to him. "When you kill him, you need to understand one thing. The angrier a strong person gets, the more they strike at an even stronger opponent. The angrier a weak person gets, the more they strike at an even weaker opponent." Zhang Long took the sword and Jianghu walked away. On the way he picked up the island master's token, thus completing the purpose of this trip. After that he let Jing Fengyun pick up the storage treasure and clean it. Then he handed it over to Jianghu. With this done he walked away with Hong Yuya. Jing Fengyun snapped back from his daze and caught up with them. Not long after they heard screams from behind. It was Tu Liang begging for mercy. Chapter 618, Blade at my neck and he asks me if it's difficult. From the start to the end there were no guards. No one came to suppress the impostors. This was now normal. The only explanation was that Hong Yuya might have intervened. This is the only way they could proceed smoothly. It could also be true that the guards were too incompetent. On the way Jianghu thanked Hong Yuya anyway. It was always good to be respectful to Hong Yuya. She just glanced at him without saying a word. Sometimes he could easily perceive the meaning in her eyes, and even deduce her thoughts from her actions. However, Hong Yuya's emotions were too few, and her actions were limited. "Senior, why did that person call you Smiling Sanxing just now?" Jing Fengyun asked. "Because before meeting you I met him first," Jianghu said. Although Jing Fengyun was puzzled, he didn't ask further. "Is this token enough?" Jianghu tossed the token to Jing Fengyun. He also retrieved several storage treasures. After settling down he checked how many spirit stones were inside. He also wanted to see if there was September spring here. In theory there should be some. It's unlikely to have a lot, but there might be a rare chance that he could get some. Since the Chaos Stone Island gathered various forces, it wouldn't look good if they didn't have good tea for sale. With this token many things can be done. Jing Fengyun was astonished. Originally he only went to get a normal identity token, but he unexpectedly got the Island Master's token. "Senior, do you have something to do? If you use this token for trading, it will be much more convenient," Jing Fengyun said. "I want to go to the 7-day village," Jianghu said. "All right. I will inquire about it. We should do it as soon as possible," Jing Fengyun said. "The matter just now will be known soon. The longer it takes, the more unfavorable it will be for you, senior. We find a place to stay first and then we can handle it," Jianghu said. It so happened that he had some matters to take care of. A short while later they settled in an inn and spent some spirit stones. Although it was a bit pricey, they could afford it. After that, Jianghu and Jing Fengyun left the inn. Jing Fengyun wasn't surprised. After all, he had the token, and it would be strange if they asked him to go alone. However, Jianghu was accompanying him to find out whether Jing Fengyun could fulfill what he promised. He appraised him. A disciple of Heavenly King Hai Luo. Jianghu was surprised. He didn't expect to encounter a disciple of Heavenly King Hai Luo during this trip. Indeed, Heavenly King Hai Luo was formidable in the overseas regions and had various subordinates. However, he had given up his position as the Heavenly King to become a prisoner at the Lawless Tower. "What cultivation technique are you practicing?" Jianghu asked. Jing Fengyun was momentarily stunned. He then immediately said, "The 9 transformations of wind and clouds technique. It's currently in the primordial spirit realm. The technique needs to be exchanged in our sect later." "Let me take a look." Jianghu extended his hand. Smiling Sanxing wasn't known for his tact. Jing Fengyun hesitated for a moment and handed over the cultivation technique. Jianghu took a look at it. With his experience, he should be able to identify some issues. After all, practicing the Hong Meng Heart Sutra and the Nameless Manual made him sensitive to the intricacies of cultivation techniques. As expected, there weren't many issues from lifeblood refinement to foundation establishment realm, but there were some problems with the primordial spirit realm in this cultivation technique. He wasn't certain how to modify it though. He could only take the cultivation technique and ask Hong Yuye later. This left Jing Fengyun puzzled. Was Jianghu using the cultivation technique as collateral? But in the eyes of such a powerful person, his cultivation technique should be quite ordinary. Unfortunately, before he could ask, Jianghu disappeared from the spot. So, for now, he could only get to work. A little while later, they found a large shop and inquired about the September spring tea. "Esteemed guest, we don't have much September spring tea here, and the ones we do have already been booked by other guests. It's difficult for us to sell it at this point," a woman said hesitantly. Jianghu's fan transformed into a long knife. He placed it against her neck. "Is it difficult now?" he asked politely. When the knife appeared, the sword's intent surged. The woman knew that if she said something offensive, she would end up dead. She smiled. "Esteemed guest, you must be joking. Whether it's difficult or not depends on whether we do our best. It's our duty to serve the guests. I don't think it's difficult." In the end, Jianghu bought some September spring tea for 19,000 spirit stones. He still had another 19,000 spirit stones left. After that, he took out the blood-burning pill and other magical treasures. The other party purchased them for 60,000 spirit stones. In this way, most of the items were sold. Although the price was higher than expected, there were 2 decent magical treasures among them. He didn't know if he had been swindled. Fortunately, he could accept 60,000. He now had a total of 79,000 spirit stones. It was then that he remembered he still had some storage treasures. He began to open them right there. The spirit stones in these storage treasures weren't much. It totaled up to only 22,000 spirit stones. There were also some ordinary magical treasures and pills. Jianghu handed them all to the woman in front of him. This bewildered her. It was the first time she had seen someone act so recklessly, and these storage treasures seemed to belong to the island master. What had this person done? At the same time, she knew that if she displeased him in any way, she would end up dead. Helplessly, she looked through the storage treasures. In the end, she offered 30,000 for them. Jianghu was not disappointed. He left happily with the money. 79,000 plus 22,000 plus 30,000. Now he had 131,000 spirit stones. He was rich. He was truly rich. He had never seen so many spirit stones before. "Now, I can afford a good blade for myself." After leaving the place, Jianghu took a deep breath. How many years would it take to accumulate this many spirit stones if he only sold talismans? Shaking his head, Jianghu returned to the inn. As agreed, he brewed September spring for Hong Yuye. At the same time, outside the island master's residence, a man in armor stood before a pile of corpses. Smiling Sansheng? He's only at the early stage of the return to Void Realm, and yet, he dares to be so arrogant? The chief guard looked at Old Man Li beside him. "Chief guard, you underestimate this cultivator." Li felt uneasy. He killed Bai Ying and several other cultivators at the middle stage of the return to Void Realm with a single stroke. "I didn't notice when he made his move. He probably blocked my perception, said the chief guard with a frown. That person had the ability to deceive him. That wasn't good. It seems we'll have to wait for Senior Tianqin to come back. Is the island master still in seclusion? Li asked. No need to wait. I will personally go and meet him. I'll see if he still has the strength to kill me with a single stroke, said the chief guard coldly. Chapter 619. A Corpse by the River. The next day, by the riverside of Chaos Stone Island, Li arrived with the others. At that moment there were many people gathered by the river. When Li arrived, they all made way for him. Li witnessed a terrifying scene. He trembled. Lying by the river was a man dressed in armor. He looked serene and peaceful, with no injuries on his body. However, there was no sign of life. He was dead. Chief Guard. Li was agitated. He felt a mix of fear and rage. He was so flustered that he couldn't even stand on his own and needed help from others to stay upright. However, his shock counted as a warning for others. Smiling Sansheng. Li gritted his teeth. He was filled with contempt. All those who had dared to go against Smiling Sansheng had ended up dead. Even the chief guard was dead. That showed how terrifying Smiling Sansheng actually was. Finally, Li decided not to investigate the matter involving Smiling Sansheng any further. This incident had completely exceeded his expectations. The death of the chief guard was a sign that Smiling Sansheng was an enemy of Chaos Stone Island. It was also a warning. The end of all things. At that moment, Li finally understood why some people said they weren't really true members of the end of all things. Smiling Sansheng was what the end of all things represented. A person who was reckless and didn't care whether they lived or died. Someone who didn't care about the influence of sects and other forces. Who would dare to provoke such a person? Li was afraid. Report to the island master and let him decide. In the end, Li could only entrust the matter to someone more capable. As for himself, he was no longer willing to go against Smiling Sansheng. The person lying by the river today was the chief guard. Tomorrow it could be him. Jianghu woke up in his room. After drinking tea last night, he felt refreshed and began practicing the Mountain Sea Seal. This time was different as he finally started to grasp the basics. When he extended his hand, the Mountain Sea Seal condensed in his hand. But it was still in its infancy. To achieve sufficient power, he needed to continue to study it. Perhaps he needed to keep drinking September spring tea. This type of tea truly yielded benefits with every sip. Unfortunately, he couldn't afford it. He could only wait until next time. Last night, he had felt a strong individual approaching him, but they disappeared in an instant. It must have been Hong Yuye's doing. After that, he took out the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and sealed it with the Mountain Sea Seal. Everything was enveloped in purple energy. The seal became much more solid for a moment. It's useful for reinforcing the existing seal on something. Unfortunately, it doesn't have offensive capabilities for now. I can only rely on further understanding later. However, the Mountain Sea Seal still had a formidable aura. It was just not very noticeable. Shaking his head, Jianghu went to Hong Yuye's room. He lightly knocked on the door and opened it when he received no response. He found Hong Yuye sitting by the window. She was lost in thought. She wasn't looking at the sunrise. She stared in the direction of the sea. However, the sea wasn't visible from where they were. Semer, Nat, are you 100k one-ing at? Jianghu asked. What can you see? Hong Yuye asked in return. The building and the streets, Jianghu said. Then why do you ask? Hong Yuye turned and looked at Jianghu. He lowered his head. Do you have news? Hong Yuye stood up and asked. Yes. Jianghu nodded. Jing Fengyun is waiting below. He has already asked about the entrance to the 7-day village. We need to enter the village to investigate the place. After that, Jianghu recounted what happened last night. However, he didn't get an answer. Jianghu felt puzzled. He could perceive it. That meant that Hong Yuye had allowed him to perceive it. Then why didn't she tell him anything today? He didn't think too much about it. He was busy with the matter of the 7-day village today. As long as he found Tianqin's child, he would have the leverage to ask him if he had placed the stone tablets in the southern region. If the other person knew about the stone tablets, he could find more information. As for the mastermind behind the stone tablets, Jianghu felt that it was still very complicated. It might not be easy to discover the truth. Mi Lingyue stood in front of a woman and shared some information about Mu Longyu as well as the preparations that were made. The woman nodded. She then stood in front of Mi Lingyue. The Great Thousand spiritual technique began to resonate with Mi Lingyue. This can deepen your spiritual strength and make it less likely for problems to arise when undercover. Now that you have gained the trust of the other party, you must be even more careful. This time you will receive more benefits. The Great Thousand spiritual technique was applied to Mi Lingyue. It allowed her spirit to have a stronger connection with the artifacts of the Great Thousand God sect. If she were to defect, she would face a catastrophe. This was the Great Thousand God sect's method for controlling their undercover agents. It also allowed them to roughly understand the undercover agent's state of mind. Mi Lingyue worried immensely whenever this happened. If she was discovered, she would die right here. After a long time, the Great Thousand spiritual technique dissipated. The woman wearily let her leave. Wait for the next debriefing. It probably won't be at Chaos Stone Island. Not Chaos Stone Island? Then where? Your status is already quite high. The next time, there's a high probability you'll go to the Heavenly Tower. The Heavenly Tower? Mi Lingyue felt a sense of danger. She knew that there were people from the Great Thousand God sect at the Heavenly Tower. She also knew that the person at the tower was difficult to deal with. He was extremely powerful, especially with a high level of mastery in the Great Thousand spiritual technique. She might not be able to pass. It seemed that she didn't have much time left. Mi Lingyue saw her two maids as she left the courtyard. Madam. The two of them respectfully greeted her. How did the investigation go? Mi Lingyue asked as she put on a black robe. We have obtained a token to head to 7-Day Village. It cost us quite a bit, but we should be able to enter smoothly, said the older maid. Why would she be in 7-Day Village? Mi Lingyue frowned. Is there something unusual about 7-Day Village? The younger maid asked. They knew very little about 7-Day Village. There was no information available. The 7-Day Village is not a place where ordinary people can enter. It seems her condition is not good. Mi Lingyue sighed. Let's go and take a look. Hopefully she can help me. By the way, is there anyone else going in besides us? It seems that people from the Heavenly Tower are going in. Some of Heavenly King Hai Luo's people are also asking around about it, said the older maid. King Hai Luo? Mi Lingyue narrowed her eyes. She sounded disdainful. Let's see what's going on later. If it's just an ordinary person, make them pay a price. They should bear the price of the trouble King Hai Luo has caused. What about the true dragon's blood? Who obtained it? Heavenly King Budong's people have gotten it, said the older maid. King Budong? Mi Lingyue was puzzled. Heavenly King Budong wouldn't act on this usually. He had already obtained a lot of benefits from the Heavenly Note sect. The other Heavenly Kings definitely wouldn't agree to this. Never mind. Leave the matter to the Heavenly Kings. Let's go to the 7-Day Village first. Mi Lingyue didn't think too much about it. Chapter 620. Wherever Smiling Sansheng appears, everyone must retreat. When Jianghu saw Jing Fengyun, he inquired about the situation of the 7-Day Village. The 7-Day Village is not far from here. It's beyond a mountain and can only be reached on foot. What if we fly there? We won't be able to reach the intersection if we fly. There must be an array set up by seniors. It makes it impossible for normal cultivators to know about the 7-Day Village. Jianghu nodded. After all, who would choose to walk when they could fly? So, despite flying all over Chaos Stone Island, the entrance remained unseen. It meant that the person who had set up the array had a high cultivation realm. By the way, I heard that Smiling Sansheng has killed someone, said Jing Fengyun on the way. Oh. Jianghu was surprised. Who did he kill now? I heard that Smiling Sansheng broke into the mansion last night and killed the chief guard. Now the entire Chaos Stone Island is shrouded in the shadow of Smiling Sansheng. That's also the reason why things went so smoothly for me this time. I used Smiling Sansheng's reputation to my advantage, said Jing Fengyun. Senior, what if we are discovered impersonating him? Didn't you say that he is also an impersonator? Jianghu asked with a smile. Now he knew who the powerful figure from last night was. It was actually the chief guard. He was indeed very powerful. He would probably not be an easy opponent to fight head-on unless he used the no regrets technique again. But no regrets wasn't something that could be used at will. It required a calm state of mind and immense pressure. Is it possible that the person wants you to bear this grudge, senior? Jing Fengyun asked. Wouldn't that be even better? Jianghu opened his fan. My reputation will grow. But it feels like you're being used, said Jing Fengyun. Jianghu smiled and remained silent. Jing Fengyun stopped talking about this and instead talked about the 7-day village. During the investigation I found that besides us, there are others planning to enter the 7-day village. Who else? At least 2 groups. One should be from the Heavenly Tower, and the other is probably from one of the Heavenly Kings. The Heavenly Tower? This was the first time Jianghu had heard about it. On the other hand, he had heard about the 12 Heavenly Kings. After all, he was somewhat familiar with one of the Heavenly Kings. As for the Heavenly Tower, he knew nothing about it. Is this your first time overseas, senior? Jing Fengyun was stunned. It shouldn't be. Even if it's your first time, you should have heard something about it. Jianghu did not answer but looked at him. Jing Fengyun was puzzled but also knew better than to ask too much. He just felt a bit puzzled about this senior in front of him. He seemed to have appeared out of thin air. The Heavenly Tower controls the livelihood of most of the lower class overseas. They have the most information on overseas territories, and the majority of the secrets come from the Heavenly Tower. In the Heavenly Tower there is a master on every level. They are powerful and hold many secrets. The highest level Great Master has never appeared, and it is rumored that even the 12 Heavenly Kings have to bow and greet him when they meet him. Moreover, all the overseas forces such as the Great Thousand God Sect, the End of All Things, the Blood Dragon Sect, the Heavenly Spirit Tribe, and the Four Seas Tantra Sect, all show respect to this Great Master. There are rumors that this Great Master emerged from the Astronomical Academy. Although the Heavenly Tower is not the strongest, it is indispensable to many people and not an easy organization to provoke, Jing Fengyun said and then looked around. There are probably some spies from the Heavenly Tower around here. Is it possible that our actions have already been noticed by the Heavenly Tower? Jianghu asked. Jing Fengyun thought for a moment. It's possible. Even if they don't find out immediately, they would piece together the situation based on the circumstances. Of course, it's not easy to transmit the information back to the Heavenly Tower, at least the information in Chaos Stone Island is not easy to send out. Will they be entering the 7-day village to obtain information? Jianghu asked. Not exactly. Jing Fengyun shook his head. Jianghu nodded. So, there were at least 3 groups of people. Although it was unknown if these people would cause trouble for him, it would be best to remain cautious. If they did, he would have to bear with it. For them, crossing a mountain was not difficult. At noon they crossed the mountain and arrived at a valley. This was the entrance to the 7-day village. At the entrance, Mi Lingyue and others stared at the 2 people from the Heavenly Tower. They frowned. One was an old woman, and the other was a young woman supporting the old one. Both of them emitted an unusual aura and appeared to be in the return to Void Realm, but their primordial spirits were quite powerful. They were very dangerous individuals. However, she had no intention of getting into any disputes with these people. This time she was mainly targeting Heavenly King Hai Luo's people. Soon they sensed that someone had arrived. Mi Lingyue looked at the 2 people from the Heavenly Tower with hostility. But in an instant her brows raised. Smiling Sanshin. Then she turned and glared at her maid. The maid said, "That guy Jing Fengyun is under the Heavenly King." Mi Lingyue was speechless. Jianghu, who had come over, was surprised to see Mi Lingyue here. However, it seemed that she had just been glaring at someone with hostility a moment ago. But the hostility disappeared when he arrived. He thought for a moment and looked at Jing Fengyun. Then he shifted his gaze to the old woman and the young woman. From their spiritual extensions, both of these individuals were extraordinary. Their aura intertwined into one. They were indeed extraordinary. I don't know who is behind them. The entrance of the 7-day village is fixed, so we need to wait for some time, Jing Fengyun. Jianghu nodded and waited quietly. Mi Lingyue and others remained silent as well. All 8 people stood in their positions without interrupting each other. Jianghu glanced at Hong Yuye, who stood there and stared at the spot ahead. She was lost in thought. Shortly after, she furrowed her brows in disdain. Jianghu looked over but saw nothing. Before long, the stone wall turned into a narrow path. This was the entrance to the 7-day village. I remind you all, after entering, if you want to come out, you'll have to wait for 7 days. Some people can't stay in there for 7 days, said the old woman as she walked ahead. Mi Lingyue didn't say anything and followed inside. Naturally, Jianghu didn't care about this either. He was going in to find Tianchen's child. He would then have a better chance of finding Tianchen himself. As for these people, as long as they didn't disrupt his plans, he didn't care. After some hesitation, Jing Fengyun followed as well. He had never been inside the 7-day village before, so he was quite curious. At the island master's mansion, a white-haired man looked down at the body of the chief guard and frowned. Smiling Sansheng has come here? Yes, master. What cultivation realm is he in? Early stage of the return to Void Realm. Early stage. The island master chuckled. And yet, he can cut the primordial spirit of the chief guard with one slash? Where is he now? The 7-day village, Li said cautiously. The 7-day village. He does know how to choose a place. Let him be for now. The island master sighed. Send news to Tianchen. He cares the most for that place. Also, inform everyone that whenever they see smiling Sansheng, they should just retreat. Chapter 621. Because we are all bad people. On top of a hill, there was a valley with a small opening. It was dimly illuminated. It was narrow enough to let only one person pass through at a time. After walking for dozens of steps, suddenly everything opened up. The land was flat with houses, farmlands, beautiful ponds, mulberry trees and bamboo groves. This is an otherworldly place. A young maid behind me, Lingyue gasped. Jianghu was also surprised. This was an ordinary village and was inhabited by common folk engaged in farming. Despite sweating from their labor, they wore smiles on their faces as though they awaited the harvest season. However, for some unknown reason, Jianghu felt something was off. No matter how he observed the surroundings, he couldn't find anything strange. These people were ordinary and the surroundings appeared normal. Jianghu turned to look at the woman beside him. She furrowed her brows slightly. Jianghu wondered what she was frowning at. An otherworldly place, said the old woman leading the way. Well, this place is well hidden. Only a few outsiders like us have come here in decades. You seem to know a lot about this place, Mi Lingyue said. Not a lot, but I can grasp your purpose for coming here to some extent. The old woman looked at Mi Lingyue and Jianghu. You're here to find Madame Gong, aren't you? Madame Gong? Jianghu frowned, but he remained composed. He wanted to know who Madame Gong was and why Mi Lingyue was here to find her. Are you here for Madame Gong as well, senior? Mi Lingyue asked. Who doesn't desire the information and knowledge from Madame Gong? Said the old woman and chuckled. But not everyone can meet her. Do you have something exceptional you can offer? Outstanding talent or extraordinary background, perhaps? What about you, senior? Mi Lingyue asked calmly. She didn't need to rely on others. She had sufficient status overseas. The hands that could forge were enough to open many doors for her. I usually prefer to exchange information for information, the old woman said with a smile. Her meaning was clear. She had the information that Madame Gong wanted. Mi Lingyue nodded. After a while, Jianghu said, I heard the family of the members of the End of All Things are here. Where are they? Family? Whose descendants are you looking for? Mi Lingyue asked. Jianghu smiled but did not mention Tianchen. You should ask in the village, though they probably won't tell you, Mi Lingyue said. She naturally had no intention of prying. If you want to use the family of the End of All Things as leverage, I advise you to give up. It's futile, the old woman said. How are you so sure, senior? Jianghu was curious. You'll know if you try, the old woman said mysteriously. Jianghu fell silent. Are you here for Madame Gong's secrets or for her inheritance? Asked the. Neither. Mi Lingyue shook her head. I just want to ask her some questions. What about you, fellow disciple? The young woman asked Jianghu. Who is Madame Gong? Jianghu asked with a smile. The question left everyone stunned, especially the old woman. She looked embarrassed. She thought this young man was mocking her. Madame Gong was once one of the third master of the Heavenly Tower. She had remarkable strength and grace. She even contended for the position of one of the 12 heavenly kings back in the day. She failed though. However, her failure was not due to lack of strength, but rather the sea realm did not choose her. Later, it said that she delved into the secrets deep within the sea realm and obtained a treasure. After that, she disappeared completely, Jing Fengyun said. He thought Jianghu really didn't know who Madame Gong was. Jianghu nodded. The secrets of the depths of the sea and a treasure. It wasn't worth his time to investigate further. After that he asked Jing Fengyun to lead him to the village chief. When Jianghu left, the old woman furrowed her brows. This young man is quite impolite. Don't be upset, senior. It's normal for young people to be spirited, the young woman said with a smile. The old woman snorted. I hope he can walk out of the 7-day village after finding the member's family here. He's really brash. Mi Lingyue frowned. She had some knowledge about the 7-day village but clearly not as much as the person in front of her. She asked a few questions but didn't get any answers. Since you also want to meet Madame Gong, let's go and see her, the old woman said. Shortly after they arrived at a courtyard. Peach blossoms were in full bloom, and a seemingly ordinary woman was seated there. She looked like she was waiting for someone. The old woman furrowed her brows. Senior, what's wrong? Mi Lingyue asked. Something's off. What? People. People? Yes, usually Madame Gong stays in her room, and seeing visitors is entirely based on her mood. But today she's in the courtyard. It means she wants to see someone. Is it one of the newcomers? Mi Lingyue asked. Hard to say. Maybe she's thinking of something and hoping that person will come. The old woman shook her head. Although unexpected, the situation might be better than what she had expected. It all depended on how the interaction went. Are you looking for someone? In the center of the village, an elderly man looked warily at Jianghu and the others. Yes, we are distant relatives of disciple Tianqin. We heard that he has a child here and wanted to ask where the child is right now, Jianghu said with a smile. However, the man was cautious. He refused to reveal anything. He even wanted to drive them away. Jianghu had no choice but to use spiritual power to confuse the old man. He would then make the person utter the answers he wanted to hear when he was distracted. It wasn't a bad approach. Otherwise, if the man annoyed Hong Yuye, it could lead to a life-threatening situation. Jianghu walked to the east of the village when he learned the information he wanted. As expected, he saw a young boy in a humble courtyard. He seemed to be about 8 or 9 years old. He was much younger than Shaoli. He was struggling with firewood and muttering something to himself. It's the 3rd day. The 3rd day? Jianghu was puzzled. Little guy, where are your parents? He asked. At this moment, the young boy turned to look at Jianghu. He was a bit shy. He then put down the firewood and ran back into the house. With a bang, he closed the door. My father will be back soon. How soon? Jianghu asked as he approached the door. It's the 3rd day. My father will be back on the 7th day, said a voice from inside the house. Jianghu furrowed his brow. Did your father leave 3 days ago? I won't talk to you. My father says strangers are bad people, said the stubborn voice of the child. I'll help you chop firewood. If you're scared, you can hide in the house. But the few of us have nowhere to stay. Can we stay in your courtyard for now? Jianghu asked. We can also cook. Do you want to eat something? I don't want to eat and you can't stay here, the young boy shouted. Unfortunately, if we are all bad people, your objection would be invalid, said Jianghu with a chuckle. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.